Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Efficient and Proficient with me, Kevin Roy. Today I'm going to show you how to polish steel. That means taking your weld down to a nice flat finish. So the reason I think this is important is that there are a lot of really good welders out there, but their grinding may be lacking a little bit. This application here can be used on ornamental steel, handrails in high-end homes. You could be building bumpers that you want to take your weld down on. So this skill is going to help you out in that. The joint that we'll be welding and polishing today is a 90-degree miter. Now the skills that you'll learn can be transferred to any material and really any surface. As always, before you start prepping your joint, you're going to want to put on your PPE. So first step is fit up and prep. You want to make sure that these are nice and flat. If you have a bad fit up, your polishing job isn't going to end up right. As you can see, I've put a bevel into my joint. And I've also flattened this outside corner. The reason I've done that is I know I'm going to be grinding at least 50% of my weld off, so I need that weld to penetrate. Once you're happy with your fit up, you can weld out your part. When you're welding your part, you want to make sure that your weld is penetrating, and when you're finished, that it is over flush. You need a little bit of material so that you can polish this down to flat. The first step is to take your weld down to just above flush using a hard disc. Now, hard discs are less expensive than the alternative, so I like to use this first. The next step is to take a sanding disc with a backing pad to bring this weld down to flush. The reason I like using this over a flap disc is that they're flat. A flap disc has a radiused edge, which could lead you to some trouble. I should mention that all of this grinding and polishing will be done in the direction of the weld. I'll be moving my grinder parallel with the weld. So when you're taking these welds down, you want to go in the direction of the weld. If you come in from the side, what's going to happen is you're going to hit the edge of that weld, causing a low spot. Then you'll ride your weld and end up having a low spot on the other side. You'll still actually have that hump in the middle. That'll make your polishing quite difficult. After you've hit it with the sanding disc, now's a really good time to check your finish. If you see any bubbles of porosity or any cold lap, maybe you haven't penetrated your weld enough, now's the time to fix it. So sometimes when you're polishing a corner like this, you're going to have to take off a little bit more material. That leaves that section low. Now, if you want to hide this, you have to bring back the sight lines of the joint. I'll show you what that looks like here. You see this radius here? Where it ends, that's a line that your eye is going to catch. I need to make sure I'm transferring that line all the way down my piece. There's a good example of it here in the inside corner. You can see that line starts to dip down. I'll point it out for you a little bit easier. Your eye wants to follow that line. So if it dips down, you'll see that. So the way I'm going to bring those sight lines back in is I'll have to draw out these grinding marks a little bit. I'll also have to come in here to even that out, putting more of a radius in. And while we have it like this, it's a good time to find out where a corner is going to end up. So what I mean by drawing out these grind marks is I'm going to take my grind zone further out, spreading out that low spot, creating that nice transition. That inside corner, you could do it with a grindstone, but if you're not confident, I think a file is the best way. It's slow and it's deliberate. Now that I've done my hand filing and I've drawn my sight lines back in, I do have grinding marks going in all different directions. I'm going to use a non-woven blending disc to take all of that down. If at any point during these 4 steps you find any weld defects like porosity, you need to deal with that now. If you send this to sandblasting, that porosity will only show up worse. There are different types of discs out there to get you a similar finish in less steps, like this disc here, which is a sanding and blending disc in one. Now again, keep in mind if you get a radius on this, you could cause yourself some low spots. Also, depending on the finish you're going for, like a powder coat, a paint, maybe you're just going to clear coat this, there are different grits of sanding discs. 80 grit will match sandblasting for powder coat. If you're going to go shiny, you want to go with a 120 grit. So now that you've followed all of these steps, you officially have your grinding ticket. Thank you for watching another episode of Efficient and Proficient with me, Kevin, and keep those guards on those grinders.